Hey there, Riverica here, reporting for duty on a trigger. Thank you for shuffling states of emergency into adoption spirit with me and steering clear of danger. In this session, we are doing a Romany Spread, but before we do that, some disclaimers. I am not a doctor, lawyer, therapist. I am a fortune teller. What I offer is no substitute for their services. Furthermore, what I share does not determine your future, only your intentions and your actions do. So please use your gift of discernment before deciding what to gather and take away. And please don't let me tell you what to do. That would be tyranny, you know. And take only what resonates with you and blow like a kiss the rest back to the universe for cosmic composting into beauty. Heartily, we are grateful. And this reading is for fun and games and shits and giggles and entertainment and flexing your mind and heart and spirit and soul and intuition. And at the least, I hope to cause harm to none, and at the most, I hope to assist. So all that being said, let's jump into our Romany Spread reading. And you are a whole, full, powerful, loving, spiritual being, and so am I. And we thank your source, your spirit guides, your angels, your ancestors, your galaxy guides, saints and sages, universes, gods and goddesses here in the highest love and light for you, as well as mine. And we thank source, your source, and my source for shifting the situation into what it needs to be, offering necessary insights, healings, acts of grace, and protection. Heartily, we are grateful. So be it, and so it was. So let's see what this Romany Spread has to tell us. We'll cut the cards. And we have Temperance, card 14. We have the Seven of Wands. We have the Queen of Pentacles. We have the Sun. We have the Page of Swords. We have Strength. And we have the Five of Wands. And so that's your past. And then we have the Devil. This is your present. And the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Cups. The Ten of Wands. The Ten of Pentacles. The Six of Cups. And the Page of Cups. And then in the future, we have the Four of Wands, the Three of Swords, the Four of Pentacles, raising consciousness, the Nine of Swords, the Knight of Pentacles, and the Three of Pentacles. And on the bottom, we have the Magician, number 1, skill and diplomacy, helping adapt to any situation. And so let's see. So Temperance, this is a Sagittarius card. This is the number 14. You see she is standing on earth and in the water and in the air. She's doing this balancing act using all of the elements. And she's got her wings on, her aura is shining bright, and she is making some decisions and adapting to what is with wisdom and grace and ease. So in your past, that's what you've been working on. And you see this Seven of Wands is next. Interesting, this is a 14 card and this is a 7 card, so the 7's in there. On that 7 of Wands, you see this person is in the upper position. So even though this person is under attack, this person is coming out on top. And so in the past, perhaps you were in this position where family members, siblings, co-workers, people in your neighborhood or in your environment were coming at you, but you were somehow, through the grace of God, able to come out on top. And what strength you have to do that. And this Temperance card is showing like part of what you were relying on was your temperance, your ability to temper your temper, right? And keep your cool and make the moves that you needed to make without hurting yourself or anybody else. That Temperance card is a 14, which that 1 and 4 break down to a 5, and that 5 represents the ability to go any direction at will. It creates a space for decision making. It promotes and progresses, and it helps from becoming overburdened with other people's energies. And that's what you were doing to help yourself in the past maintain this upper hand. And this Queen of Pentacles energy is so beautiful. You see she's got the cat in her lap, which I don't know how many of you have been able to have cats in your lap. It's such a cozy feeling, and such beautiful animals. They're so independent, right? So the times they're able to sit in your lap, maybe they're few and far between, but when they do, it's such a beautiful synergy. And you see you've got grapes in your hand. These grapes are challenging to cultivate, and so that's representative of the work that you have put in to gain the success in the earthly plane, to gain your pentacles, to gain your dollars. And that Queen of Wands, she is the watery part of fire. She's fluid, she's colorful. And oh, sorry, I was mistaken. The Queen of Pentacles part of me is the watery part of earth. So this is the ambition of matter. This is intelligent. This is truthful, joyful. Taking part of working to create something new. Queen of Pentacles. And then we have the Sun, and this is number 19, and the 1 plus 9 add up to a 10, which is the number of physical matter, signifies building heaven on earth and starting something new, starting over, starting something new. And perhaps you've been part of the dismantling process. So many orphans and adoptees have been a part of the dismantling process, dismantling the orphan fairy tales and the adoption fairy tales, like this little orphan Annie, or how so many people think that adoption is for the best when it's really not. It's just different. And so often is an inequitable social contract that's more about the parents involved, the birth parents, the maternal birth parents, the paternal birth parents, their parents, the elders. Often it's about the elders and the adoptive parents as opposed to the children involved. And so it appears that you've been walking away from those fairy tales, coming out of the fog, finding a new balance, working to avoid mirroring the madness, and finding a happiness. The Sun is a happy card. And so despite this challenge that you had where people were coming at you, you were outnumbered. You were still able to find this happy space. And the Page of Swords represents this intellectual energy, this air energy, this youthful energy, using your intellect to make this happen. And the strength card, this number 8, this is a number 8, and it represents power and infinity, and helps us break patterns that have held us hostage or bound in unhealthy patterns. And so congratulations for breaking free and being so strong. The traditional card of strength has a woman standing next to a lion, which symbolizes that strength where you're not using your force. It's a different kind of strength. It's a very gentle strength, a very quiet strength. And some people would say that that's the most powerful, is that quiet strength that doesn't have to be loud or bully to get things done, doesn't need to use violence to get things done. So congratulations on that. It's super. And then we have this 5 of Wands, which represents that quarrel, and maybe it was the siblings or the family or the co-workers, take it as it resonates, people in the neighborhood. And you see this card has people of different colors, and so maybe it was part of the dismantling of that racism that's been going on across cultures. There's so many different races that have been overcoming this, keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. And some of it has been harmless and other people have died. There's been the whole spectrum. And so deep sympathies for the losses incurred from these struggles, but also I'm celebrating with you your wins, because look at these wins. You're coming out on top in the past. And so in the future, we have the Devil, and this is number 15, which adds up to a 6, and 6 is the number of service. And look, these two are serving this devil, and this devil can represent an obsession, an addiction, material, attachment to material ways of life as opposed to spiritual ways of life. And the number 6 is also about light, the difference between light and dark, and the choices made between those two. And the number 6 can also help defend against quote-unquote evil forces like psychic invasions, and it can help us maintain our integrity by maintaining our boundaries. Like right now, they don't have boundaries, right? They've got a chain locking them to each other. And the number 6 can also help release unconscious benefits of repetitive patterns and embrace new joyful ways of responding to life. And talking about orphans and adoptees, breaking down the adoption fairy tales and the orphan fairy tales and stepping into a new way of life. Like those old way of life wasn't really working for the orphan or the adoptee. The adoptee, trigger warning, if you didn't already know, you may fast forward for the next couple seconds. The adoptee is 4 times more likely to suicide, because these social contracts really are more about the parents involved than the children involved. And the orphan and adoptee in that inequitable contract, living in that contract that isn't taking them into consideration, find themselves misperceived as ADHD, ADD, addict, bipolar, criminal, developmentally delayed, rude, ungrateful, and what kind of life is that? And so some end up taking their lives. And so in this present, you've really become aware of that inequitable social contract, and you're walking away, you're breaking the chains. You're using your intellect. You got the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Cups. You're using your intellect, mastering your intellect and mastering your emotions, moving from that youthful place into that more mature place to where you can walk away from that old social contract that wasn't serving you. And perhaps it wasn't an orphan or adoptee social contract. Perhaps it was a different kind of social contract. Take it as it resonates. And then we have this 10 of Wands. And that 10 is the number of physical matter, and it can build heaven on earth. And you see he's got these 10 wands in his hand, and he's walking away, and it could, look, oh, maybe some of them are going to fall, but maybe there's been oppression and everything that goes along with oppression. So many heartbreaking things, to say the least. But you can also look at this card as like, he's taking these sticks to go build something new. Like, we're building a new earth. And that's super exciting. And then followed by this 10 of Cups, that really clarifies this card, that this is a rebuilding. This is a rebuilding after the dismantling of the adoption fairy tales, or the dismantling of the racism and the patriarchy. Take it as it resonates. And building a new earth where there is perfect contentment. And however that looks for you, whether you have a partner and kids and the elders in the house and the animals, however that looks for you, you can take it as it resonates. But that is so wonderful. I'm so happy for you. That's awesome. So strong. And that strength card is coming right there. And the 6 of Cups, this is, again, that number 6 that we were talking about here, signifies the difference between light and dark and the choices made between those two, and a number of service. And you see, we have light and dark. We have one serving the other. And this Cups is all about emotions. And they don't seem too concerned that this other person is walking by looking at them. They're pretty caught up in each other. That's quite lovely. And so maybe you've been able to find more of a balance for yourself, and in this present moment, coming from this place of inequitable social contracts, where the contracts are more about one person than the other, more about the parents involved than the children involved. Maybe in this present, you've found a more equitable contract, and that's quite thrilling. And the six of Cups, Scorpio and the Sun are associated with that. And so that's bringing some warmth, and also that scorpionic power. Like, the scorpion will kill itself before it succumbs to somebody else putting it down. And so that strength and the courage to try a different way of life, and not to condone suicide. Some of you may have been in that position. I myself have been in that position, and also have known people who have passed by that. May they rest in power. But that is just to honor the challenge of what you have gone through, and to the places that challenge can take you to, the dark places, and also the light on the other side. When you're able to get away, break the social contract, get yourself free, get yourself in a safe place, and find a more balanced way of life. And this Page of Cups, youthful energy. You see he's got the fish in his cup, and that fish is symbolic of riches, and he's looking pretty happy, that Page of Cups. It's the airy part of water. Elasticity, volatility, like the energy of steam. And this is a subtle energy, an artistic energy. And so that's what you've been leaning on to help you rebuild this new way of life, that building this new earth. Very interesting. That steam is so powerful, right? It can run a train. And so in the future, we have the 4 of Wands, and that 4 is like a chair with 4 legs on the floor. It's solid, it's grounded, it's stable. And you see these people are celebrating. They've achieved success. They've got grapes up here. The grapes, again, they're challenging to cultivate. And so that symbolizes the work that you've done to get to where you are. You've done so much work to dismantle the old way of life and the old earth and to build a new earth. And thank you so much. And there's this celebration, getting over this heartache where you were just pierced and heartbroken. The 3 is a number of optimism. It brings a beginning and an end together, and it helps especially for those who are susceptible to environmental and psychic invasions. And so you're coming out of that heartache and creating this safe space for yourself, and that's super sweet. And this 4 of Pentacles, again, the 4, very interesting. We're talking about this earth energy here, where perhaps you're coming across an inheritance, or just the success of your own enterprise, whether you have your own business or it's the work that you do that is helping you build up this new way of life. And you're careful not to grasp too tightly. You understand that there's a balance between the spiritual and the physical. That's what this raising consciousness is about. Elevating up to the next octave and being super aware that you have emotions, you have the spiritual side, you have the physical side, you have the mental side, and you're able to balance those to make your life happen the way you want, to avoid this 9 of Swords, this worry that keeps you up at night. And that 9 is a symbol of change and harmony. It also can erase evil, and that evil is, in my experience, loss and trauma that hasn't been healed, and that takes some of the fearfulness out of that evil. But this 9 can help eliminate that and help you heal and help the others involved heal, those close to you and those far away that maybe you don't know, like the war-torn families, nations, and galaxies. And this 9 opens us up to a new cycle, ends an old cycle, shows that we're ready to end that old pattern, shows that we're ready to halt the cycles of that, the violent cycles, the fight, flight, freeze, F-U-C-K, the fawn, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn cycles, those violent cycles. The cycle ends with you. Thank you so much. That is amazing. And then this Knight of Pentacles, more youthful energy, scholarship, study. You've got your armor on. You're not hurt as easily as you used to be when you were a child. You've learned how to protect yourself and have your boundaries, maintain your boundaries. And that's super sweet. And the 3 of Pentacles symbolizes mastery. It's a noble card, and it's also collaborating with others. And so in the future, you've put yourself in this place where you're the master of your craft, and you're able to collaborate with others and continue to build up that new earth, and that is super sweet. So now we're going to read the columns, and this is your self, this is your surroundings, this is your hopes and fears, this is the known factors, the hidden factors, short-term future and long-term future. So yourself, you're this temperance. You're able to keep the balance. You're able to change to whatever life brings you. You have that maturity, and you understand the obstructions that might get in your way, and you're able to move around them to achieve this foundation and stability. That's quite amazing. And your surroundings, even if you're outnumbered, even if people are trying to break your heart, take their grief out on you, you are able to cut through it with your intellect and not take it personally. You've matured to that place where you've learned to not take it personally and maintain your safe, sound boundaries. And your hopes and fears that, when you began this process of dismantling the old earth, you didn't know how it was going to end. And you didn't know if you'd have the power and the skill and the knowledge and the wherewithal to cultivate those grapes that are so challenging to cultivate. Take that figuratively. Maybe some of you actually grow grapes, and and you didn't know if you're going to have the emotional wherewithal to learn this new way of life, like to step out of those old adoption contracts and those old orphan contracts where, there's a mainstream story about what those look like. And you didn't know if you'd be able to master your emotions to establish a new earth. You didn't know if you'd be able to let go of those old social contracts. That meant walking away. If you let go of the adoption contract, that meant walking away from yet another family. And you didn't know. You were scared, but at the same time, you were hopeful. And the known factors, in your heart of hearts, you had that notion that there was that sunshine, there was that warmth, there was that ultimate happiness, and that there is a different way to live, that a new earth could be built. In your heart of hearts, you just knew it. In your heart of hearts, you knew that you could raise your consciousness to do the work, to step into the power, to be that bodhisattva, to be that noble and awakened heart that heard the cries of the world and could help yourself and help others transmute the violent cycles into love. And you had that faith, you had that spirituality. Even if you couldn't verbalize it, even if sometimes maybe you said, oh, I don't believe in God, in your heart of hearts, it was there in you. And you knew deep down inside. And the hidden factors, you didn't know if you'd be able to get through the worry and the anxiety, and if you'd be able to make your heaven on earth, if you had the mental capacity to rise above and create that heaven on earth. You weren't too sure. And then the short-term future is that strength, that courage, that persistence, that scholarliness. Just you keep on learning, and you understand your boundaries more, and you're able to steer clear of danger, and you're able to balance relationships with other people without giving away your power. And that's super sweet. And the long-term future is overcoming these struggles, these quarrels, that racism, whatever that looked like for you. Was it a patriarchy? Was it the inequitable social contracts that have so often happened in adoption, that are more about the elders involved, the elders and the situations where the birth parents have had to relinquish their children, the elders were pressuring them to the elders and the adoptive families or the guardians. You're overcoming that and balancing your emotions and finding success and riches through that part of that work, that soul surfing, and stepping into that part of yourself that is a mastering your emotions, mastering your mind, mastering your spirit, and still being humble and human and able to make mistakes and roll through it, understanding that that's how you learn. And so that is what I see in your reading today in this session. Thank you so much for helping me breathe life into adoption spirit magic. Heartily, we are grateful. Until next time, ciao for now. I love you all.